All right, guys, welcome to our session number 15, I think. Today we are going to talk about APIs, but many other things as well, because it's all connected. Basically, we had a session a couple of months ago, which was about APIs and external APIs, where I wanted to show that even with all the knowledge you might have, it's not always easy. You know, you get stuck with various things, okay, and you have to figure out the way how to fix the issues. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So what we have done since then, of course, as I said in one of the following sessions, I just gave a brief update. Hey, I fixed that. It worked, but I never showed it. And then since then, what we did was we built a mobile application using a Vue framework and using Vuexi theme, okay, which looks really nice. So we are going to look into that for the first time as well. And I'm going to explain how everything is connected together. One of the things that I'm going to cover is also CORS, because that's a nemesis of developers. So we will see how that thing works or doesn't work, how do you go around it, etc., etc. Okay, so today I'm hoping that I will manage to switch the scenes properly so people will actually see what I am showing to you guys. So hopefully you can hear me very well. There is no echo today, I hope. And also I hope that you will have lots of questions. And if you do, brilliant, okay? Just keep them in the chat. I will go after each section and see what you guys asked about. Okay, so just an overview. This is what we are going to do today, okay? So what we want to do is send a push notification to our users on their mobile phones. So on here on the left, we have two examples of people. Some people have Android phones, some people have iOS, Apple devices. And they can be anywhere in the world, okay? So some can be next door, some can be in a different country. It doesn't matter. Some can have older phones, newer phones. It shouldn't matter. And also they can have multiple applications which receive these messages, okay? So it's very complicated for them to explain how does this work, because they can also be on a different network provider. So some people can be on T-Mobile, some can be on Ziggo or Vodafone or who knows what. It doesn't matter. And even if they are just on Wi-Fi, they should still receive the push notifications, okay? So regardless how it works, we choose Firebase Cloud Messaging System, okay? This is by Google, all right? So what they did is they connected to Apple push notification system, okay? So basically these two systems talk together, and both of these systems are connected to all the network providers like Verizon, Vodafone, T-Mobile, all the others. So they know where the users are, and they are able to send the data to that user wherever that user is, okay? Now, in order for us to communicate with these Firebase Cloud Messaging, our server, so this is our server, has to have some sort of identification, okay? So it has to have some sort of API keys. So it says, this is us. It's not somebody else trying to push notifications instead of us. Apart from that, these push messages are mostly free. So unless you plan to send millions of them, you know, this doesn't cost us anything. So that's great. Every user, of course, has to have a unique number, okay? Because if I'm calling somebody on a phone, I'm calling them on their unique phone number. And the same thing goes with push notifications. I'm pushing push notifications to some thing which we'll call FCM, Firebase Cloud Messaging Token, okay? So each user has its own token, which identifies that user. And also each application, so we know which application is receiving the message, will have its unique ID. So we know, are we sending a message to Facebook application or AI SIHA or any other, okay? Now, of course, our server has a database where we store all our users, okay? And this is where we are also going to store our tokens that we receive, so we know who we are sending the message to. Our server communicates through APIs, and we are going to look quite a lot of APIs today. So these phones are connected through APIs, okay? So they can update us with the token, okay? So the phones, the mobile applications, talk to the APIs to give us the token, all right? And they also talk to the Firebase Cloud Messaging to receive these push notifications. And the last thing here on this nice image, we have our admin console. So our administrator, in this case me, I can see what is going on. Clear so far? Good. So I'm going to dive in. How would I approach this problem? Okay. How would I start from the scratch and then get it to work? So go with this. So I'll show you a number of things what I have open on my screen, and there are things behind as well, so it's a little bit complex, okay? So in this VS Code that I'm showing now, this dark theme one, this is my mobile application, all right? So that's my mobile application that I'm compiling and working on this emulator. This is Android emulator, okay? And with that Android emulator, I am seeing what's going on through this Google Chrome inspector, okay? So if you go on Chrome into this address, then you can inspect all the connected devices on your network. So not just the simulator, but also everything what is on the network. And then I can see this little console that helps me see what's going on. Okay, so that's a very useful tool. And on the other side, this is my AppsForce, okay, where I can log in. And when I log in, I will be able to check my users, database, push notifications, and all the other stuff, okay. So that's that. Last part is this Firebase Cloud Messaging System. So I have my account here. And as you can see, I have multiple projects, okay? And the one that I'm doing now is called My Time, okay? So I'll show you how that works and how we are going to set it up. So obviously I can add a new one like AI SIHA and so on. In order to make this work, I used existing backend application. In this case, it's Animus, okay? So this is the application called Animus, where I already had this page called push, and I will go through this code. So this is what I'm using to make a test push from the backend, okay? And the application that is going to receive these messages is My Time. So this is application that our colleague Thomas is working on. So he created a few things, integrated, and he helped me a little bit the other day with this application. So I had pre-existing application, all right? But I had to change quite a number of things actually in order for it to work. So I'm always kind of, when I'm programming something complex like this, following user journey, okay? So what does the user do first? And what does the user do first is they log in. Now, as you know, login is supposed to be secure, okay? Because you are giving your password, so I have to deal with that securely, okay? But in order to simplify this and make sure that it doesn't work, that it does work, I say I don't care about security. So I make it work first without any security, and then I add security on top of it. Okay, so there's no security at the moment. Nothing is encrypted, protected, etc., which is bad. Okay, but it's done deliberately. Okay, so I first make it work, and then I make it secure. All right. So that's what we are doing here. So first thing, what I'm going to show you guys today is this login, okay? So what I did is here. So I need to go to my mobile application, okay? So this is my mobile application, okay? And I need to explain it a little bit how it works, okay? So this is the source code, okay? So this is my source code in this folder. This source code gets compiled as a little web application which works in a web view on this phone, on this simulator. Now, that web view is actually a very simple Android application. So this is my Android application, okay? And the only purpose of this Android application is to open one page, which is web view, and then display whatever I want to display in it, okay? Same thing goes with iOS. Okay, so this is very simple iOS application which just displays web view and what I want to see in it. Now, that's very good unless I need to interact with native components. And what I mean by native components, well, you have many. You have Bluetooth, that's native. It's a piece of hardware on the phone that I have to interact with. And you know that your web browser can't interact with your Bluetooth device easily, okay? Second thing, I can interact with GPS. And one of those native components that I have to interact here is internet, okay? So I have to use the radio of the iPhone or Android phone to talk. And then I also have to work with these push notifications. So I have some native components that we need to add in order for this to run. Now those native components, because this is Ionic framework, Ionic framework uses things called capacitor, and this thing called capacitor allows me to write basically JavaScript or Vue commands here, and it will pick them up and then interact with the native component through this capacitor thing. So what I just do, I type happily in JavaScript, my code, and then this capacitor figures out, I need to call this native functionality, okay, open Bluetooth, see the push notification, did you receive any, etc., okay? And this capacitor works really good because it can communicate on one end with Android phones and on the other hand with iOS phones, so I don't have to write two different types of code for one or the other. Okay, so that's the idea here. This same code works perfectly fine in my browser, okay? So if I Control C this and say Ionic serve, boom, 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 boom. So what it does now is going to compile all these JavaScript codes and is going to show me exactly the same application inside my browser. Okay, so I can log in here and use the application and develop it in browser. I don't have to develop it on the phone itself. However, browser does not have native components of your phone. So I'm not going to be able exactly to receive push notifications or connect to Bluetooth and stuff like that inside the browser. So these capacitor components typically do not work in a browser. I can't test it in a browser, so I have to test it on the phone itself, okay? So that's why I'm going to kill this browser, okay? And I'm going to stop this process by pressing Control C. And I'm going to launch it on Ionic capacitor, run on Android, and external, and then L, I guess, stands for live reload, which means that every time I make a little change in a code, it will automatically recompile the app, upload it to the simulator, and in that case, I can see my changes, okay? So I can try to kill this app and some other stuff that's running here, brilliant. I can even close this simulator, okay? So let's start from the scratch. So when I type this command inside my folder of where my app is, it's going to ask me which of the existing emulators that I have on this computer I want to run on. And because this is M1, I'm running ARM version. So boom, 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 it's doing all the capacitor stuff, compiling this, building the thing, opening the simulator, putting the app on it, and starting the app for me, okay? So it's very fast. First time it might take much longer, but then after that it just updates that quite quickly, so I'm very happy, okay? So there you go, it's deployed. It will continue running until manually stopped with Control C, so every time I make the change, I can see this flicker and it will reload. So to see what's going on, you see now this one is disconnected, so I'll close it, okay? And here I can see web view, what I mentioned before, because it is a web view, it's just a kind of wrapper of the app. And this is the name of my app, the full name. So it's typically, so it has to be unique. So it's typically reverse of our website. And then I add the name of the app at the beginning, okay? So this app is my time, but the full name is Org App Source My Time, okay? Brilliant. And I can click inspect. I don't need this anymore. And this is inspector in a Chrome. This also works in Firefox, by the way, but so I can see the network, the memory, everything, but right now I am getting this console where console logs, these things are written in that file that I just showed you. Okay, and I will put it roughly here so we can see what's going on when we make changes. Okay, so as I said, this application typically opens inside my source. It opens this main.js, okay? Main.js basically launches a Vue application here, so it imports some stuff that it needs. And one of the stuff that Thomas added here is this API service. So basically the first file that's hit that says launches imports API service, which is very good, so everybody else then can have it afterwards. Now, I'm not using API service as far as I remember, okay? So this API service is just for his my time app really. So, but I didn't use this at all. Okay, so for me, it makes no difference. After I load the main.js, as you see at the bottom of it, it had this, it's launching a thing called app. So this is my app, okay? Now the app, the first thing here is this view stuff, all right? So this is my app. And I added all this stuff which you can see with the green things, but I will actually explain them a little bit later, because as I said, the first thing is that I need to do is make sure that my user is logged in, okay? So this app, okay, doesn't do much. There is nothing there. It checks the, you know, it checks initial stuff, okay? And this is a code that doesn't display anything really itself, but it initializes various things which might take a little bit of time. So typically what we have is that splash screen. Okay, so we have a splash screen while this is getting executed. Okay, so, and after that, we have this thing called the router, which tells us where to go, okay? And it wants to go to our home page, okay? But our home page says you have to be logged in. So then, in that case, it decides that my user is not logged in, so it's going to go to the login page, and this is what we see happening right now. So this is set up already. This is what Thomas has set up, so I don't care, it works fine, I'm happy with that, all right? So just getting to the place where I actually start working, okay? So this is the login page, okay? And I hid this bit here because this is standard Vue components, mostly also HTML, which renders this page. Okay, and I don't care about that, so we have input for email, input for password, and all this lovely stuff. I don't care about that. That comes from the theme. Okay, so this Worksy theme has all these pages, so I'm happy. I'm just going to use it as it is. Okay. It also validates did I enter stuff correctly. So if I just type random stuff, immediately says, hey, you didn't enter a valid email. So validation provider, great, okay, it has a logo, it has all that sort of stuff. I'm very happy with that. Validations, all good, okay. So where is my login functionality? Okay, so this is the functionality of this app, okay? So it has methods, and first function is this validation form. So when you click sign in, okay, it checks is everything entered correctly. It doesn't check is your user and password correct, it's just is it in the right format. So if I put dsds and dsds.com, it thinks it's fine, okay? Don't know why my thing starts getting blurry a little bit, but here we go. Okay, so now validation has passed. Okay, so when I click the sign in, it will actually call this thing. Okay, after verification of the data, okay, it's going to do the auth login, and I'll show you that in a second. And it will pass whatever I entered in this field. So it will pass the email and it will pass the password, okay? And then it will wait to receive some information back, okay? So this calls the function to start the login process. Now, auth login is auth login, okay? So this is the one that I have. And now, I had to change everything what Thomas did in this specific app. Okay, so you can see that pretty much everything here are changes. Okay. So, what Thomas used, and I will show you here, was it here or somewhere else? Yeah, okay, so he is using a thing called Axios, okay? So Axios is one of those plugins that is very easy to make requests. So get request, post request, and so on. So you just want some data from the server. Okay, so Axios is some JavaScript script or file or little package that we imported. So this calls the server, whatever this data is, the URL, and gets response. Brilliant. Thomas said it actually goes to store auth model.js first, and that gets loaded with the app. Okay, well, I'm trying to keep it simple, but thanks Thomas for the feedback. Okay, so what Thomas was doing, and he wasn't making a mistake, okay, he had his app running inside the browser. Okay, I just showed it with Ionic Server. I can run my app in browser, okay? And that browser executes the JavaScript, including this Axios thing, all right? And then it calls appssource.com, which is conveniently running on my computer as well. So I have a server, I have AppSource set up on my computer. But appssource.com as a URL does not exist. If you remember when you were setting this up, we made a fake hosts file, which we said appssource.com, whatever is appssource.com, that's on your machine, okay? So that's your local host, all right? Now what the problem was, is because this is running inside the browser has a thing called CORS, C-O-R-S, okay? So it's a protection. It's a protection for the user when JavaScript tries to jump from one server to another server, okay? So what does it mean? Well, it means that my JavaScript is running in this Ionic Serve environment. So it was running on port, as you can see here, localhost 8000, okay? And now I'm calling, the JavaScript is also trying to get some stuff from appssource.com. And now this is where the browser says, hey, what the hell are you doing? Okay, I might not like that because you are crossing from one server to another, okay? And then it gives you this horrible CORS error, okay? So the browser is the one which is blocking the request. All right. So in order to fix this, okay, in order to fix this, before we fix this, browser checks with the server and says, hey server, are you all right that I give you this request? So basically what it checks is that server does not have inside its headers, inside what it returns to the browser, it doesn't have the settings to allow this headers, origins, and stuff like that, okay? So what we needed to do in order to fix this is actually add that to our server. Now, of course, if I add this to the server like this, And especially if I put star, which means from everywhere, then it means that my server will just take any JavaScript from anywhere and allow it to do whatever the hell it wants, which is absolutely not secure. So while you can put this inside of your config, and I'll show you where, okay, it's not a very good idea. So if I go to my server, oh my God, I just closed it, brilliant. La 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 la. Okay. Okay, so here, if you are running Apache, this is easy. Okay, Apache, in every folder, any folder, you can put a file which you will call .htaccess. And then for that folder, you have additional permissions, okay? And you can handle stuff differently in that folder. So this is where Apache is stronger than Nginx in a terms because it's much easier to configure. You can configure this in Nginx tool relatively easily. It's easy to add headers, but you have to do it in a config file and then you have to restart Nginx. In Apache, you just put this htaccess and it immediately works, okay? So htaccess, I added this, okay, but I just modified it slightly, okay? So I said, okay, first of all, you are going to be in my Animus folder, so not other folders, so any other application doesn't have that. It's only for the index.php file, and then I say, okay, I allow all the origins and I allow all the methods, but I can actually reduce it if I want to because my only method is get and post, okay? So I don't care too much about this, but this worked, okay? So after this, my browser was not complaining anymore. I could have got the data. Brilliant, or not. Now the second thing is what my authorization service is doing is using a method called post, okay? So if I'm sending somebody's username and password, I'm going to use post method. Okay, I'm sending some data to the server, I'm posting it. I can send it with the get, but that is absolutely not secure. Okay, so the method is going to be post method. Now, Laravel application expects every post to have additional security. Okay, it expects to have this CSRF token. But since this is coming not from Laravel application, but from external application, of course, it's not going to have the CSRF token. So this is relatively easy to fix, okay? So what I have to do is go to middleware. And middleware of Laravel application has this verify CSRF token. And here I can list all the routes that don't want to verify this token. Okay? So I put API star. So whatever the route is, API, API, I don't know, get user API, save user API, check password, whatever the route is, all of them are included with this specific thing. Okay, so they're not going to check for CSRF token, but then I should replace that with something else, which I said I didn't do yet because I want to keep it simple. So with this, two things. My login form inside my browser, remember I was working in a browser first, worked. It worked with Axios. I resolved the course issue by adding that stuff to htaccess. And then I resolved the CSRF issues by modifying it here. Okay? So it worked. I was able to log in. So let me show you that. So I'm using the URL, okay, which was here appssource.com, same thing like Thomas had, okay. So I used appssource.com and called the API, and I'm posting the 2 bits of information, so email and password, which that function that we've seen before on this page is passing from the input fields, okay? So, this says await for response, and then when you get the response, then you can do something with it, okay? But I'm going to go now to the backend. So I'm sending to this URL, okay? And then I need, inside this my backend, inside of routes, I need that root. I need to have something, so this is my root. It's a post type, it's API login, and it calls this specific controller and this specific function. So is this one here, okay? Now, this application, as I said, had some other stuff which we really don't care about because I just use existing applications. So I'm just going to close this, what is kind of annoying. Okay, so this is the login. Okay, so what I do first is I read the email and the password from the request, so from whatever this application has sent, okay? And I also put a little secret code, which I'm not checking right now, so I generate long code, which I expect that application to send to me for security reasons, but I'm not checking that now. As you can see, I just commented that out, okay? Because I just want to keep it simple, so to make sure that API works. Okay. Now what I did also is, fine, so this is the email that was typed in here, okay, and then I check my user, find me that user inside the data table. And if you find the user, then send that user back. But I always send my data back in the same format. I send the code 200 if it's okay, or code something else if it's not okay, message description what the 200 means, and then the data in this data key. So I always know that when I use my APIs, I will get 3 bits of information returned, code, message, data, okay? And data is optional. So if I found the user, I say it's fine, here's your user, this is the code 200, it's okay, fine. If the email doesn't exist, I send a different code, 405, and different message. Why did I put 406, 405? And data is null because I don't have the user, okay? I couldn't find the user in my code. If this breaks for something, if there is a server error, if I made for example, a bug, so there's a syntax error, this will catch that error, and then it will send the message 500, and it will send the error message, so this one will know what the hell it is. Good so far? Any questions? Nope. As you might have noticed, I'm not even checking the password. Okay, so it doesn't matter which password I enter in a mobile application, it just finds that email user and it gives back, so absolutely not secure. But I just want to keep it simple right now, so I'm not checking the password, even if I'm typing the password here, okay? But it's in the same way, so I need a few lines of code which will say, okay, encrypt the password, decrypt check does it match, and then return the error password don't match or passwords match. So, if I open my little console, okay, and send an email which I know it doesn't exist, this email address doesn't exist, and click sign in, okay, nothing happens. Maybe this isn't connected or it's connected, I don't know. Seems like simulator died a little bit. Sometimes this does that, so okay, well at least that works. But there were a few issues with this. I went back to my mobile app code, wherever it is, and I discovered that first of all, appsource.com doesn't work. Okay? It doesn't work because, as you remember, I said I changed the host files on my computer, but this is a simulator for mobile phone. So mobile phone doesn't know what appsource.com is. So it's not going to run with appsource.com. So I had the first issue that appsource.com didn't work. So in order for simulator, which is running on my computer, to work with my computer, I actually had to type in the IP address of my computer, which was luckily displayed right here. So 192.168.70.13, so that's the one which I copied, and that worked, okay? But the second thing, I got course issues back. So I thought I fixed them. Brilliant, course is working, browser works, I can log in, all that sort of stuff. No, you can't. Now see, this was a problem because I used Axios, and Axios is JavaScript, okay? Now this Axios is running inside of this web view. And this web view says, call this URL, okay? But this web view is connected through the phone's network, okay? It's not on a browser, real browser, it's on a phone's network. And then it goes to the server which says, here are the headers, okay? So the phone network actually received the headers, but it forgets to give them back to my Axios. So Axios thinks I don't have those headers. And then the web view says, hey, I'll just block you. So quite naughty. So in order to fix that, I just couldn't. Google the shit out of it, and they say, hey, use this HTTP plugin. All right? So I had to install this capacitor community HTTP, which allows my application to talk natively to phone and make native requests. Okay? So, just to repeat one more time. Axios is JavaScript, which runs inside my web view, which is basically a browser, which is the app which then runs on a phone. Okay? That is blocked by course. If I make, instead of this in my JavaScript, I type HTTP because I installed this plugin, I'm actually using capacitor, which then translates that and talks directly to the phone's network, and I do get my headers back, and then I don't need any course issues, because it's not JavaScript which is making those things, it's now the actual phone's network. So even this htaccess thing that I added for the phone, I actually don't need it, because it's not JavaScript making jump from one browser to another, from one server to another, okay? So with this HTTP thing, it resolves. And I said, if you are using components, which are native components or capacitor components, typically they don't work in browser, okay? This one even does. So they made it so it works on the Android, on iOS, but also in the browser. So if I use this one, boom, works on all three, so great. So in order to use this HTTP, I had to npm install it, as you saw in the thing, and then I say here in my authorization service, okay, this is my HTTP request, and I just import the HTTP at the top, and then I can use it, okay? Now, of course, Axios has slightly different arrangement, syntax of the data. So I have to go to the website of these people to see how do I make a post request. And, you know, luckily they put example. So if I go to my browser and then say, okay, fine, give me this thing, capacitor community, this thing, I can see somewhere in documentation, okay, this is a GitHub, brilliant, okay, as you see I visited it, and then it gives you usage, okay. So here's the options, so this is a GET request, this is a POST request, etc., etc. So I just look at this and then kind of did the same thing. Any questions so far? No? So back to my code. So when I make this request, I receive data. Now this is a little bit confusing, okay? Because whatever I send this, I return the response. Okay, so my variable here in the backend is called response. And this response is an array, and it has 3 elements. Of course, arrays are not sent over the network, so this Laravel stuff makes it into some nice string JSON and so on, so it's sent over. I don't have to worry too much about it. And then when I receive this thing back in the other file, I called it data. I tried to call it response, but for some reason it didn't work, or I can't remember what it was, so I just left it as data, okay? But data is the response, okay? So when I get the response, I put my console log to say I'm in response, and then I put data.code, so I'm accessing that code through, and I check if the code is 200, it means everything is fine. So this is what Thomas then did, you know, so when you receive the user data, store it in a local storage. Okay, so even if I close the app and open it, it's inside local storage. And beautiful thing about this is if this worked, is it in memory or somewhere? No. Application, I think storage, local storage for this thing. So this I can even have a look what is stored inside the storage, okay? Right now it seems like it crashed, so let me see one more time. Is this working now, or do I just need to reload it? No, this is not playing ball. Can I close this app? Nope, it's all burnt, okay. I'll close this, I close this, I will Command C, and I will try it again. So hopefully it will work better. All right, that simulator, zoom. Okay, it doesn't seem frozen. Web view, Ionic app, that's the IP, inspect. Okay. My time. All right, good. So as you can see, it says native here. I don't know, can you see it really, because it's quite small. I have no idea how to zoom it on this thing. Not that. Don't see it, don't care, okay? I'll highlight it, okay? So this is a native command, HTTP request. It got result, and then it says in response, okay? There is a refresh button in DevTools. You can reload the app, of course, yes. Thanks, Thomas. Yes, you can reload the app, but I think in my case, I do sometimes like to kill it completely just to make sure that it's not messing up. So as you can see, I hope you can see, it says 405 here, okay? So this is my console log data code. So I can see in response, and after that 405, all right? And if you remembered from my other backend, if I couldn't find the user, then the code is 405. So there is no user with thisnuts.com, so it works exactly as advertised. Okay, don't need you anymore. Cancel, go away. Okay, so let's see what happens if I type the right user, AppsForce Ltd @gmail.com, and password can be anything, 123. As I say, I'm not checking the password, and before I press enter, I just want to see these tools. So if I click sign in, boom, I'm in, okay? So as you can see here, it says in response again, but this time it got 200 and some other stuff that I'm going to cover in the next part. What I wanted to do is just to show you that sources network memory application, I think here, and see here now in local storage, I have user data and I have username, Fabris, and password, which is encrypted, of course, etc., etc. So all the information is now stored in a local storage, which is brilliant. And any other view that needs this data can easily access this by reading the global storage. Okay? So far, so good. What else do we have here? So that is saving it to the local storage. It saves it in JSON, okay, under the name user data. And then returns to my application, whoever called it, the data code, which is 200 or 405 or 500, whatever happened. So, going back to this guy here, so the data that I returned is not the same data because I returned data.code, so this data is data.code, okay? So you have to, this is a little bit confusing of the scope of variables. These JavaScript variables have very limited scope, so I can reuse them multiple times, the same thing, okay? So I'm just passing the data around, but it's not exactly the same data. Every time is a different bit of data. It's a little bit confusing. Who is encrypting this password, asked Mernas. Okay, this is actually encrypted because when I created this user, Mirnas, I encrypted the password straight away. And then when you type your password, I encrypt that too, and then to compare the two encryptions. Okay, and if those two encryptions match, then I know it's your password. This is done by special encryption which cannot be decrypted. I can't decrypt that and see what your password is. So all these user passwords which are stored are one-way encryption, all right? Of course, if you have a super powerful computer and lots of time, you can decrypt them and break them, but it will take days because it's 256-bit encryption crap bullshit, okay? So, but we are not talking about security here today, we are talking about different things, okay? So, now, as you can see, in my console that I just showed you here, it says, after I do this 200, it gives the FCM token. Okay, so it's here inside the console because I log in this FCM token, but I got it from somewhere before. Okay, so my next step in this thing, of course, would be to get this FCM token.
Andre, and I forgot, it is not the same as CRF token. It's something different.
CSRF, no. FCM token is from that picture that I showed you. This is coming from Firebase Cloud Messaging. So this is a token for each the phone you get, for each user you get universal one. Okay, so that's the token. So what I will do relatively quickly is now show you Firebase console. Okay, and then we'll have a little break. All right, so in order for this whole thing to work, I need to create a new project, my time, and say it will have an Android and iOS app, okay? And then it will use some of the services. In this case, I can use many different services, but I am using cloud messaging, okay, service. So this is my cloud messaging service right there. I can use Crash Analytics and all the others. And you can see I sent some test message, okay, but that's not what I care about because I care about this. And these Google's platforms are horrible in a user interface, even if it looks nice. And they have 1,000 options and 1,000 little menus and pages, literally 1,000, because they have so many services. So I have to Google how to use Google, how to find, you know. I think it was this cog, and then I go to project settings. Okay, so this is what I set up, okay? It's basically, I just call it my time, and then it figured out all these things itself, okay? And then in the cloud messaging, okay, this is my account details and so on. Please, people on the internet, just copy it, use it, you know, throw down the government and so. So this is my server key. Okay, so in order for my server, what I showed you here, to identify itself to the Firebase cloud, it needs the key. Okay, and that's the key which I just showed here. Okay, and of course I can drop this key and add the new server key, and I will do that hopefully afterwards, so whoever copy pasted this doesn't use mine. But as I say, this is a free service, so every guy who has a Gmail account can create these keys, so it's not that big problem, okay? Now for Apple, I have to do additional steps, is connect, as you noticed here, to Apple push service, which I'm not going to do today for simplicity. So I have a server key, and I go to my server-side code, which is this white one, and I'm going to use this API key in my push controller. Okay, so before I make a call to Google to say, but I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so setting up this really is not that complex. Okay, so you create a new project, you call it Org Apsos My Time or whatever it is, you select I want cloud messaging, and you get the bloody key, server key. Funny, another thing which really pisses me off is it's called server key here, but here is called API access key. Why are they doing this? I don't know. But that's API access key. When I send the message to Google, it's called authorization key. Just to confuse the shit out of you. Okay, but apart from that, this works quite nicely. So I just wanted to show you quickly this console. Literally, there's nothing more to it, okay? So create your project, select I want Apple and iPhone, Android and iPhone, make it a name, get the key, done, okay? Even the statistics are crap and so on, so pretty much I don't need to use it, okay? But of course, if I use Crashlytics, that's quite nice. We can do that next time. So in order to set up the servers to talk to each other, it's relatively easy, but we will see that in a second part. So what I need to happen, okay, is now I need to get the push setup, okay? So in order to get the push setup, I do it in this initialization part of the system in app view, okay? So that's what I'm going to show you, but we'll take 3-4 minutes very quick break, and then we'll jump into this one. But if you have any questions, please do send them. Okay, so guys, talk to you in 3-4 minutes. Okay, guys, hope you are back. We still have lots to cover, so I hope I will show you everything that I planned for today. So with the last application, we suffered a little bit because we couldn't get it to work. Because one of the problems was I couldn't find the right plugin for integration with FCM, with Firebase for React Native. For my application, it just didn't work. And then I figured out, oh my God, I can actually use the native one, which comes built in with it, and that one worked quite well. I used the documentation. And I had the same approach in this one. I just went to Ionic, which links me to Capacitor, the same company, I think. And it has all sorts of APIs. So these are native APIs. So as you can see, it has geolocation for your GPS. It has Google Maps. It has file systems, so you can save pictures or load pictures on your device, etc., etc. And it has push notifications. And it says, great, to install, just run these two commands, which I did, okay? And then it says, for iOS, you have to do these changes, which I didn't do yet, okay? And for Android, you don't have to do anything, but you need Google Services JSON file added to your app, okay? Where the hell do I get it from? So I get it from actually from the console Firebase thingy. So somewhere here, cloud messaging. No, here, project settings, I think it was here, cloud messaging. At some place, it has that file and allows you to download it. Okay, I can't find it right now, so I have to Google how to find that file, where exactly to click. But it's somewhere around here. Here it is, Google Services JSON. So I downloaded this file, and the thing tells me to put it inside my Android app there. Okay, so this is generated for my app. And as you can see, it has various identifications, so I can identify, and this is, of course, my app that I created, so it's all created for me, so I just drop that file there, and this now knows who the hell it is, how to communicate with it, and so on. So far, so good. So I went back to the documentation, and it gives me a little bit of information. It says in capacitor JSON you have to add that, and in capacitor config TS you have to add that. Okay, so I did that. Capacitor config JSON, here it is, and capacitor blah blah blah, whatever the other one was, I added it somewhere. Doesn't matter. Okay, so it's there. What does it say next? Blah, blah, blah. And here's the example. So pretty much I copy this code and stick it in my app view. I could have done pretty much the same in some other applications, but as I said, this is what happens. This page will be doing my splash screen. So all this stuff which happens, which takes a few seconds to happen, I want it to happen here, okay? So let me show you what happens here. Somewhere, this is what I had to add, okay? Created. And it's so funny because it actually doesn't tell you to do that here, okay? So initializing home page. Okay, so that's what happens here. So I'll go back to console, and as you can see, this is the first thing when I start my app. It's calling this initializing home page. What does this mean? Well, this means that this application, how the view works, it has certain functions which are like default functions, okay? So you can't change their names. This is fixed as such. And they are called in certain order automatically. So as soon as this app view is loaded, these functions get called and executed, okay? So created function gets called and executed. My app view didn't have it, so I had to find this in view documentation, and Thomas helped a little bit. So when the app is created, okay, I want to call these 3 functions: register, notifications, add listeners, and get this one, okay? So those 3 functions are defined here. So that's what I copy-pasted. Constant add listeners, okay? Constant register notifications, and this one at the bottom, okay? So, because I was like, oh, I copy-pasted this code, nothing happens, okay? Nothing happens because I have to call them for these things to happen. I thought maybe in Vue you just put them and they do things, but they don't, okay? So, just to recap, I imported the package, okay? I got that Google JSON file, what it asked me to do. I copy-paste the code, didn't work. I put some console logs to see what's happening. I see that these are not called, okay? And then I figure out from the Vue documentation that I need to call these guys one after another, and then they will happen, okay? So this add listeners adds 4 listeners, okay? Now, the listener is a funny thing, okay? So it actually listens, it doesn't execute, but something at some point will call it, and then it will get some data or do something, okay? So when you say push notification, this push notification is imported from my push notifications plugin that I used, okay? So I can add a listener registration, okay? And then what it does get is a token. This is that FCM token we are talking about. So of course this goes through the network. So if your phone, when you open the app, doesn't have data connection, it will throw an error, okay? So it didn't work. Or maybe it will take 3, 4, 5, 10 seconds, okay? Because you have a very slow connection, or maybe server is very busy. I don't know. So of course, this is all happening quite quickly because I have fast broadband, etc., you know, but on the phones, it's always much slower, okay? And then see what I did. I just put a global variable, FCM token, and I store that value. Now, if I use a global variable, it will be available in other Vue files as well. Okay, so that's the scope of the variable. So if I want this FCM token to be in my login, okay, it's here. I can easily access it. But if I close this app, this global variable, like all the others, are deleted. It's not local storage, which means that even if I close the app, it's still stored. Okay, so just to get you the right scope. So this thing here gets my token. And I printed it to my console, so every time I get this token, And pretty much it's the same token for one user. Occasionally they might change it. So I do need to call it every time just to make sure that it's still the same one. Okay, but it shouldn't change, but sometimes it does. So you launch the app, I get the token. Now what I did a little bit, I cheated, okay, because I didn't write yet the code, and if we have time, I'll do it today on this session, but if I don't, I won't. So I cheated here, and I went to my admin, utilities database, and I found for Animus users, and for me, I copy-pasted from that console that code, that FCM token. This should be done by another API, which I didn't write, and as I said, if I have a little bit of time at the end, I'll do that, okay? So I just copy-pasted the code in order for me to test these push notifications. So my user, Andre, with this email that I use for logging in, gets that code. Now, go back to this guy. So this says registration error, this push notification received. Okay, so this is the one which listens for the push notifications. Okay, and then some action performed. I'll explain this in a little bit later because you might also push like updates and background tasks to the app, and you can so it's kind of different. So you can push different things to the app, and the app might be on, so you can see it on your screen, or it can be closed. You still should receive this push notification. But in order to make sure that we are getting push notifications, we need to do something before this. We need to do this bit here, okay? So this bit here checks the permission. You know, when you launch the app on your phone for the first time, it says, hey, this app wants to access your contacts and stuff like that. Those are permissions. Okay, so you have to grant the right to the app to use this. Same thing is for push notifications. So some devices might, it depends on you guys, how you set up your device, might say, I don't want to receive push notification, I want to block them. So this checks, do you have a permission? Okay, so basically it's a native, again, thing which checks your phone, what happens here. So if it wants a permission, it will do the prompt, and then if you are granted, it's fine, but if you are not granted, if you say decline on that prompt, then it will call this bit here. And then you can deal with it in your app. You say, hey guys, that's fine, you don't want to receive pushes, no problem, you won't. Or you can say, well, this app needs pushes in order to work, so if you don't allow us, you can't go any further by, okay? So that's that, okay? And this one, get delivered notifications, is no idea what the hell does it do. If I go to the documentation, doesn't say much, but then here it actually explains get delivered notifications, get the list of notifications that are visible on the notification screen. Okay. So this is if my app was in a closed or background, and then on notifications I have 1, 2, 3 push messages, I guess I can get them in. I guess that's what it is for. I'm not sure, didn't use it, didn't need it so far. Cool. And that's it. That's what I needed to set up in order to receive push notifications on my thing. But now I have to go back to the server side. Okay, because on the server side, I have this form that I created, which selects the user. As I say, there are many users here, but this one I updated the token. And then I say what type of message I want to send, and then I type title, body, and data, okay? So this is what I'm sending with my push notifications, okay? And if I go to this Google Chrome thingy, okay, these DevTools, and I move here, and click push. Okay, it says push completed, and I see push notification received, which has the information, title, that, body, that, and so on, what I just typed, random characters, okay? So it works. How does it work? Well, this is a push controller. This is the thing, okay? So to display that view that we just saw, I just get all the users and give that view on the screen, which has 4 fields. And when I click push, it calls this push execute function, which reads user type details and so on. And then it reads this token, FCM token, okay? In my database, as you just saw it a second ago, I stored it again in remember token, but it should be FCM token. So I'm also guilty of naming stuff incorrectly and so on. So remember token is FCM token, push token, whatever it is. So this is my API access key, which on the console was called server key. Copy paste it there. Then here's my URL. Okay, so as you can see, it's calling FCM Google APIs. And this is from their documentation. Okay, they say you have to put the message like this. Okay, title is my title, whatever I filled in, body is whatever I filled in here. And then I select few things, okay? Do I want it to vibrate when you receive the message? Is there any specific sound that you want to play? So you can play default sound like beep beep, whatever your default sound is, but you can have a special sound if you want to. So it says quick, quick, or I don't know. Okay, and then this is some additional fields, which is basically my message. Then tool, this is the user token, which is FCM token, which is remember token, same thing. And then, see, this is weird, because I just told them this, but they want data in this format, with body, data, title, fine. Priority high, I guess, why should I ever send a message in low priority? I don't know. Authorization key is my server key, which is this API access key. So this is what I do to set up the message. And then I execute, this is standard curl. So I say it's going to be a post request as they wanted. They are going to send these headers. And this is what sends it. And see these fields, this is that, okay? So message goes there, fields goes there. So these are all the curl options, and then I execute it in this line. So basically this calls this URL and sends this data that I filled in inside my form. If there is an error, it will find the error and close the channel always. And here is what I had on my screen. I either see push failed or push completed, and I see error message, and I see a result. So if my push failed, I will see it on my screen. So for me as administrator, it's quite nice and easy to see what's going on. Okay, so that's that notification message. So this we got some ID, it's success, it's blah blah blah, fine. Okay, so if I type hello YouTube, body is this is a great lesson, and data is, I don't know, my shoe size 46. Okay, so that's what I'm pushing. So let me just go to this guy here. Okay, so I can see that. Push and received hello YouTube, great lesson, and somewhere data is that number 46. Any questions? So what I wanted to happen a little bit later is I wanted to have, where did I put that? Let me just see. Yeah. So what I wanted to do here is also have a little pop-up, okay? I don't know, have you seen it, but I will log out. Started playing, okay? And I will type wrong email again, okay? Now, if you look at the top of the screen, when I send this notification, send, I didn't send because I didn't type .com, okay? Login error, okay? This little pop-up message. Because what I wanted originally is to have this push notification appear as notification, okay? But I couldn't figure it out, okay? It was something, it wasn't working properly. So I said, okay, let's keep it simple, all right? Let's see how this toast thing for view works, okay? And there are multiple solutions, but this one was built in from Vuexi, so I actually checked Vuexi documentation in this case. So in order for me to display this notification, I have to import notification component, okay? And every component that you are using, you have to export here or list a list of components so it knows that you are using that component. And then after that, you can say this toast and pass this information. So title login error, bell icon is that. So if I say login error on YouTube, okay. So see, it just recompiled. And now if I enter wrong address here, and click sign in, login error on YouTube. So that's my prop. Now it has this bell icon, but I guess it has multiple others. That is Vuexi's theme, so I can just see what are all those icons' names, and I can change the icon, change the color of this thing, change the duration, how long it will stay on the screen, etc., etc. Now, the reason why it didn't work for me was that I tried to stick it in here. Okay, so basically what I wanted to do is as soon as this thing gets a notification, push notification received, so this is the one which we saw printing out the console, I wanted to do it here, okay? But it doesn't work there, okay? I think it's some sort of view limitation or JavaScript limitation, because I'm trying to combine different types of methods here. So again, I'm not very sure about this, but it doesn't really matter. So you have these methods and functions that execute immediately, and you have these ones which are asynchronous, so which I say await happen later. I don't think you can combine those. I'm not sure, Thomas can correct me if I'm wrong, but anyway, they didn't work here. Okay, so for what I really want to do here at some stage is maybe I just global message equals notification. So basically, whatever message you receive, I store it as a global message, okay? And then in the, what I really need to do is when I log in, and I will log in here now, okay? What I need to do, because this thing, header, appears on all my pages, I need to add that here. So if you get a push notification, this is where that pop-up is going to get called. And then I need to update this little green dot. Okay, so I have a new notification, and then when I click on it, I need to update it again and make it disappear. So I'm not going to obviously display it here. I'm going to display it inside of my navigation, vertical. I think it's this guy. No, this is menu, sorry, layouts, components, navbar. So it's going to be here, okay? And this is where I will put the push notifications, but also update these little green dots as such, okay? So this is somewhere here. I will have that be avatar badge, okay? So I guess badge class, badge variant success. So success is typically green, so I think this is why it's showing green. So if I say warning, yep, it changed it to orange, okay? So I would do some front-end nice work here, but the complex work, getting this data and storing it, it's done. So I do have a little bit of time. So what I'm going to say, first of all, are there any questions? And if not, then I can actually do that API call to update my user and store that token automatically. Okay, I guess no questions. Okay, so and I can do it on two places actually. So see here, I have the token. This is my token. I know it here. I just logged in. Okay, so I know who the user is. Okay, so after I logged in, so I can put it here. So make a little code to update the user's FCM token, or I can actually do it here. Okay, before. So I'm saving the user to the thing, okay? But then I can say, okay, fair enough, before I return the code 200 to the other one, let me also update the user, okay? So I think it makes perfect sense to add it right here. So I save the user data. Oops, I didn't save it, I just deleted it, okay? So I need to make another call. So let's make it first on the back end. Okay, but I'm using this Animus because it already has it built. So let me show it to you. Where's my white thingy? Oh, did I close it again? Sorry. New window, file, open recent, sites. Ah, here it is. All right, so in guest APIs, I noticed that I have this push token function, which here is push token username token. Okay. So let's see what this does, because it's not going to work really, or it might work quite well. So I need to call API push token, pass the username, and pass the token. And it's actually a GET request. Okay, so now I need to make a GET request. Okay, and this is the format. Okay, so the URL itself will include the token that I have and the username of my user. Okay, fine. So what does it do when it receives that? Okay, so this is guest API push token. So guest API push token, it checks the secret code, checks this thing. Okay, I'm just going to ignore it right now. Okay, then it finds the user with that username which is provided. Okay. Why does it then find another user? So this is a user, aha. Okay, this is a little bit stupid, but anyway. So there is an AppSource user, which is in AppSource MyAdmin database, and there is normal user, which is in Anonymous database, which is the same user. So it finds it in 2 steps. Okay, why does it do that? I don't know. I can simplify that. Instead of sending username, I can just send the ID of the user, because I just received it. So I will do that instead, okay? So I'll delete this one. I don't need it. And this will be ID. And in my web, it doesn't matter what I call it, but I will just put ID, okay? So I change the API to receive the ID and the token. It finds the user with that ID. No, it doesn't, unless I change that there. And here is putting in try catch, so it assumes it will find that user. Maybe if I pass the wrong ID, if I pass ID 5,000,007, it's not going to find it. But I'm going to pass the ID, which was just given to me 3 seconds ago when I logged in. So surely that's the same user, okay? So I don't expect any error to happen here. However, I will keep try catch, and if this fails, if it doesn't find the user, I'm going to return error 407, which here is defined as error updating user, which is fine. And if my code doesn't work for any other reason, it will throw exception 500. Okay, great. So, sorry, here, this is the exception 500. Okay. So user remember token is a token that I send, and user save. And then it just gives response 200. It's all perfect. All right. So otherwise I get a different response. So I'm happy with that. The only thing what I have to remember is my URL. So actually I'm going to copy this stuff for the time being, and then I'm going to go to my mobile application. Okay, so I need to make another return HTTP request. I'm just going to do it just in this one, okay? So let me paste this URL, okay, which now will crash this for the time being, but I understand that. Okay, and then I say the whole thing okay, so this is the whole thing. I'm going to copy, paste here again. Okay. So updating the user. I will assume the URL will be get. Now, API URL, as you can see here, is this slash Animus plus API. So this API URL is already half of my URL. So it's this, but I then need push token, ID token. Okay, that's what I need to have here. Now, the ID is user ID. Okay, so this data is the data that has the whole user. And this is what I store. Data is my user information. And I remember that in my table I have the ID. So basically what I need to do here is say, okay, fine. Push token is a string. And after that string, I want to add data, and JavaScript plus data.data.id. And then I will add another plus, and then I will add in quotes that, and then after that, I will add another plus, and it's going to be my global f.fcm token. I can't remember, was it capital or lowercase or whatever it is. Global FCM token, so that's it. Global, there's no this FCM token. Okay, now I'm not sending any data. Okay, so this data field is not needed. Okay, and then I'm checking what do I receive. Okay, but I don't care because I already stored all this, so I'm just going to return the code. Now see, what is complaining about is about this await, because this should really be a separate function. So maybe I can just get rid of this await. All right. Who knows, is it going to work? So in order to test this, to really test this, I will, okay, because this is in response, but I'm going to put it here. Sending FCM token to the server. So I know that that's happening. And then idiot, can't be there. Okay, and then here I'm going to see sending FCM token complete. Okay, and then I'm going to get the data code from that second request. Okay, so hopefully that will work. So I have the backend, I have the front end. Now, to really know does it work, I'm going to go to here, to my database for my user, and I'm going to delete this. Remember token, okay? So now if I added this user, it doesn't have remember token, which is how it should be. All right, so this happens when I log in. So I need to log out, okay, and I need to see what's happening in my app. So I'm going to move all this crap. Who are you? Okay, so this is my console. I can even clear it, so I don't have any stuff from before. So I'm typing appsforce ltd at gmail.com, any password, and I click sign in. Okay, so sending FCM token to the server, sending FCM token complete, and I got code to 100 as response from the server. So, wow, this looks great from this end? Well, let's look at the server. Okay, so this is my user information. Okay, so I need to go back and edit Andre, and boom, remember token is there. Any questions? So I'm showing this picture again because this is where we started. So I just showed you that we built the mobile application for iOS and Android. Okay, the first thing what we are doing is when we start the mobile application, we are doing two things, okay? So first we get the FCM token from the Firebase cloud, and at the same time, using the APIs for our backend, we log in our user, okay? Now when the user is logged in, then we make another call through the API gateway that we just saw, and we store that FCM token on the server's database. We saw that happening, okay? So that is establishing this communication. Once I want to send a push notification, in this case, I had my console, so I typed, selected the user, and then say, send a push notification, which says, okay, server, call the Firebase cloud, set the push notification. In order for this application to receive, I have those couple of listeners, and at the moment, it writes it to the console. But of course, if I want to, I can, and what I should do, just make it pretty at some stage. I put that a little pop-up notification. But as I said, it should really go on the top bar. Okay, because that top bar is a component which we display on any page. So it doesn't matter where the user is inside the app, it will always get that notification. So I don't have to write the same code in 20 different pages, only on one page and one component. Of course, there's no top bar on the login page, but then I can't make a push because I don't know that user yet. So that's the only exception. So that's it for today. I managed to finish it even on time with a few more minutes. So guys on the chat, any last minute questions? If you don't have any, that's it for today. So I hope that this session was good, and then that everything what was unclear from previous ones is now clarified. So if we don't have a server like you do, we cannot push notifications like locally by using storage plugin for WorkC. That's a very complicated question. I'm not sure what you exactly mean. So first you have a server locally because you are running AppSource on your computer. However, if you go to that Google Cloud Console, you can push notifications from there too. Okay, so I tested it first by pushing it from that Cloud Console, but that one calls it something different, like you create a broadcast, then you schedule it. It's horrible. So you can push notifications from Cloud Console. Okay, something has to tell Google to push notifications to a specific user for specific apps. So there's lots of identifiers. You can see how this is all connected, so I don't think you would ever do it in any other way. This is the simplest way actually to do the push notifications. Hope it answers your question, Mr. Jesus. Anyone else? Okay, well, you know where to find me if you need it. Next Thursday, so in 2 days, we'll talk a little bit about the databases. Okay, so a little bit extra. So hopefully that will also get everything together. I think week after we have Manuel coming to explain to us Angular mobile applications and so on, and all those NPM installs, components, and dependencies. So hopefully that will be useful. And then maybe Elaine will have a second lesson on writing, and then maybe we can have a little break for a couple of weeks for holidays and so on. But guys, thank you very much. Hope it was good, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye for now.